Today I'm announcing that New Zealand will ban all military-style semi-automatic weapons. We will also ban all assault rifles.
That was New Zealand's Prime Minister overnight announcing that national ban on all military-style semi-automatic weapons, assault rifles, high-capacity magazines, the weapons and equipment used to kill 50 people at 2 mosques in Christchurch last week. The Prime Minister says this legislation is going to be introduced early next month, and the opposition party has already said it will support this. As you can imagine, that's catching the attention of lawmakers here in the U.S. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is praising the Prime Minister's leadership on Twitter and pointing out that in a matter of days, 6 days, New Zealand did what the U.S. has not done over the course of years. Joining me here on set, Matt Bennett, Senior Vice President of Third Way and former Deputy Assistant to the President in the Clinton administration. Betsy Woodruff and Aaron Blake are back as well. Matt, why has New Zealand been able to do what the U.S. has not yet done since we've seen these mass shootings in places like Colorado and places like Sandy Hook?
I think there's 2 big reasons. One is it's a parliamentary democracy. So she's the leader of the government, and she has the votes in Parliament, and she can basically make it happen if her party supports her. And as you noted, the opposition supports her, too. And that takes you to the second reason, which is we have a culture, we have a gun culture here unlike any other in the world. There are somewhere between 300 and 400 million guns in private hands in the United States. That dwarfs most of the rest of the world combined, and it certainly dwarfs New Zealand. So Australia did this when they had a mass shooting in the 80s. It's just easier to do.
New Zealand does have its own, when you talk to folks who are from there, does have its own kind of gun culture, if you will. But what has been striking to watch is how politicians there have changed their minds on this issue. Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters, by the way, whose party had opposed to any measures of gun control, said this: the reality is that after 1 p.m. on the 15th of March, our world changed forever, and so will some of our laws.
You know, everybody keeps thinking our world is going to change like that, too. After Sandy Hook, I remember Joe Manchin went on this network and he said, they're killing our babies. Like, we have got to do something about this. And yet it doesn't seem to change. And I think one reason is the politics of guns became kind of set in stone in 1994. Remember, in 93 and 94 were the last 2 big gun bills, the Brady Act and then the assault weapons ban that is sunsetted 10 years later. In 1994, the Republicans took over the House of Congress for the first time in 30 years. They beat people like Jack Brooks, who was a very powerful Judiciary Committee chairman. And this idea that guns were toxic politically took hold, and it has never really abated.
But there's another big reason, right, that I think gun rights advocates point to, which is in the United States, we have a Constitution, right? And the NRA, Dana Loesch, spokesperson, tweeted, the U.S. isn't New Zealand. While they do not have an inalienable right to bear arms and to self-defense, we do.
She's right. That's true.
Right.
And the fact of the Second Amendment and the Constitution is a big part of the reason that a lot of legal efforts or political efforts to change gun laws have really struggled to come to fruition. It's part of the reason that we have sort of the gun culture in the U.S. that doesn't exist in other countries. It's part of the way that many Americans see their identity as Americans. We're a country where part of our founding document makes the right to have a weapon sacrosanct. And the reality is that that's part of America's DNA, that amendment is, and it just makes it politically much harder even to tinker around at the edges when it comes to federal laws about guns.
There's political pressure, I think, from Democrats and gun control advocates at this moment. There's also a lot of pressure on tech companies and on specifically Facebook because of that live stream that was out there of this shooting that happened. Now, this morning, there is a new development on that, and I want to share it with you. This morning, Facebook is announcing that artificial intelligence systems failed to detect the New Zealand shooting video. And Facebook is now re-examining its reporting logic, as it calls it, on live videos, because the first user report on this thing came in 12 minutes after this whole live stream was over, which meant it got reviewed less urgently. And I wonder, Aaron, if that is Facebook going far enough, because our NBC News reporter, Brandy Zadrozny, made this point on Twitter, right? That YouTube was responding to this struggle to contain the shooting video, but there's more work to be done. In 2017, after a man Facebook live streamed a murder, Zuckerberg said, we have a lot of work to do. Also in 2017, when YouTube spread misinformation about a Texas mass murder, it said there's more work to do. ProPublica discovered Facebook was allowing advertisers to target neo-Nazis and white supremacists. We know we have more work to do. 2019, parents found really disturbing videos spliced into YouTube programming. Facebook said we have more work to do.
Well, the first thing is that it's an extremely difficult thing to do. You've built this platform in which people can live stream anything that they want to. You've built this behemoth that is hugely important and very lucrative for certain people. Can you just suddenly take down these features? That's the only foolproof way to prevent something like this from happening. When you have this kind of power that allows you to live stream your life to the entire world, to say what you want and get it out and have people retweet it and push it out there, you know, there are tons of unintended consequences that come with that, and preventing anything from happening is just impossible unless you take away that instantaneous ability to actually do something like that.
Aaron and Betsy, thank you. Matt, I really appreciate you joining the conversation. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Coming up.